in Atlanta. This was a preseason game. My goodness, the first thing I can come out with here is that feed into the league pass. Am I the only one? I noticed Lexie Holt had a bunch of minutes in this game. 14 points. Looks like she got 5 boards, 4 assists. So, let's start this out. Right here, Caitlin Clark coming down the court. Yeah, she's going to dribble, and then she's going to pull up for a long 3. Bang. Right there. Beautiful three-pointer.
23 minutes. That's all Caitlin Clark needed to put up 13 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds against the Atlanta Dream. And she did it after an injury scare in warm-ups that had Fever fans holding their breath. Indiana finished the preseason a perfect 3-0, something nobody predicted. Meanwhile, Lexie Hull silently took over the fourth quarter with 11 points when it mattered most. The Fever's depth is suddenly looking serious, with role players stepping up alongside their rookie star.
Wicked step back 3. Look her drive in, take a step back, push away. Boom. Three-pointer, beautiful, beautiful shot. She takes that step back 3. It's gorgeous. Caitlin Clark already in mid-season form on the three-pointers. Right here, you're going to see her come down. Sophie Cunningham's got the ball. She's going to pass it off to Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin's going to take a wicked. How about we get a little love to Sophie Cunningham? This is going to be a pass from Caitlin Clark in as Sophie Cunningham cuts towards the basket. Right here, you're going to see her come cutting in right there with the pass. Nice little made layup.
But the real test comes May 17th against Chicago, when defenses will be designed specifically to make Clark's life miserable. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
ESPN released the viewership numbers for the Indiana Fever versus the Brazilian national team game. This was the game that was held at Iowa on Sunday. So the game averaged 1.3 million viewers. It peaked at 1.6 million. The Indiana Fever break attendance and viewership records in their preseason game against the Brazilian national team. So what does this mean for the WNBA as a whole, and can they finally become? And this was up 13% over last year's regular season ESPN average for WNBA games. So of all WNBA games last year, this was up 13%, the viewership.
Did anyone actually think the Indiana Fever would sweep the preseason? Let's be real. Nobody was paying attention to WNBA preseason games before this year. But now, the Fever just went 3-0, beating the Mystics, the Brazilian national team, and the Atlanta Dream. This from a team that won just 13 games last season. But check this out. It wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. When her shot wasn't falling in the first half against Atlanta, Lexie Hull stepped up in a massive way. She dropped 14 points with 11 coming in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line.
Because I'm not going to lie to you, it's not just you-know-who that's got an issue with made layups. There is like a pandemic in this league. I kid you not. With some of these players and their made layups. How about a little DeWanna Bonner action? You know, not that I'm trying to throw shade, but again, a made layup, which is, frankly, let's just keep going. Frankly, it's good to see in this league. Caitlin Clark to DeWanna Bonner for a bomb from downtown. Look at this. That's the tall gal. That's the tall gal hitting that. I mean, seriously.
Nobody saw that coming. The Clark's range is even deeper than in college. She's pulling up from practically half court with total confidence, forcing defenses to guard her way beyond the three-point line. Even that technical foul moment showed something special brewing. Clark threw the ball at the stanchion after a no call, and immediately Sophie Cunningham was there, calming her rookie teammate down. Remember all those predictions? Most analysts said the Fever would improve, but still missed the playoffs. Now some are wondering if they might make a playoff push. That moment between Clark and Griner after the game wasn't just for show. There's real respect building here that's showing up in their on-court chemistry. So now the question is, Can this preseason success translate when defenses start specifically targeting Clark and the games actually count? Everyone's talking about Caitlin Clark, but here's what they're missing. The Fever suddenly have serious depth. That's going to be the difference maker this season. Clark scared everyone with that pregame injury against Atlanta. She collided with a teammate and aggravated a leg strain during their final practice. Fever fans were freaking out, but she still played and put up 13 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds in just 23 minutes. But what happens when teams start throwing wild defenses at Clark? The Chicago Sky are already planning ways to deny her the ball and mess up her rhythm when they meet May 17th. Coach White has been testing different lineups throughout preseason. She's mixing things up, finding combinations that make Clark shine while giving other players chances to step up. Hull's emergence is exactly what the Fever needed. Another scorer who can take pressure off Clark when defenses collapse on her. These two are already connecting on the court. Clark finds Hull for open shots when defenders focus too much on stopping the rookie. The chemistry is building crazy fast. These connections usually take seasons to develop, not just a few preseason games. When you look at established stars like Griner next to emerging players like Hull, you see how much this Fever team can still grow. The real test comes when the regular season starts. Will this newfound depth be enough to beat the defensive schemes designed to shut Clark down? Remember Lexie Hull before this preseason? Probably not. But after that fourth quarter against Atlanta, everyone's wondering who this player is that suddenly looks unstoppable on the court. Hull scored 11 of her 14 points in the fourth quarter against Atlanta. She showed this crazy confidence nobody expected from someone who used to be just a quiet role player. This creates something wild for opposing teams. When they focus all their attention on stopping Clark, they're leaving Hull wide open to do damage with her offensive game that's growing by the minute. Her defense has been just as important as her scoring. She's jumping into passing lanes and showing court awareness that works perfectly with Clark's playmaking abilities. Coach White keeps talking about Hull's growth. She says Hull is embracing her role and expanding her game in ways that make the team so much deeper. When Clark got that technical foul, it actually made Hull step up even more. The team rallied around that energy instead of falling apart. Hull isn't just scoring more, she's doing it smart. She's picking her shots carefully and taking advantage of all the chances Clark creates for her. Confidence comes from getting the reps, the game-like reps over and over again in practice, Hull explained. If role players like Hull keep getting better at this rate, how good could this Fever team actually become? The Hull factor might be what determines if Indiana exceeds expectations this season. That moment when Caitlin Clark threw the ball at the stanchion and got teed up, it could have been a disaster. But instead, it showed us something nobody expected from this young Fever team. Clark got heated after a missed call. That competitive fire made her a college star, but in the WNBA, you gotta channel that energy differently. Right after it happened, Sophie Cunningham stepped in. The veteran immediately calmed Clark down when things could have gotten worse. The same game had this wild contrast. 1 minute there's a technical foul, the next you see Clark and Griner sharing a warm embrace after the final buzzer. One fan even noted the great respect from Clark and Griner. The injury scares made everything more dramatic. Clark had that pre-game collision, and Cunningham hurt her ankle when she landed on Rain Howard's foot in the third quarter. Coach White later shared that Cunningham said, "I'll be fine," and was already getting in a cold tub. Through all this drama, the team showed composure that usually takes years to develop. The technical didn't wreck their focus. It actually fired them up. They played better defense and ran sharper offense after it happened. This mix of fire and ice, intense competition with composed execution, might be the best sign for the Fever's future, even more than going undefeated in preseason.